Hello, Storyworks Junior readers. I'm Kara, and I'm so glad you're joining me for this video read aloud for The Wildlife of Christian the Lion. It's the incredible story of two men in London who adopted a sweet, cuddly lion cub. But as the cub grew larger and more aggressive, the men realized that Christian really didn't belong in a city living with adults. He belonged in the wild among other lions. So what happened when they brought Christian to Africa? You're about to find out. Luckily for us, a lot of their experience was filmed, so you're going to see real photos and videos of Christian's adventure. This is an amazing story that I promise will make you think about how we interact with wild animals and where they really belong. You ready to meet Christian? Let's go. The lion cub had spent his whole life in a cage. He was born in a zoo. Then he was sold to a fancy store in London, England, that sold animals. It was December 1969. The poor cub was put on display in the store. He was stuck between the kittens and the sheepdogs. The lion's future seemed quite grim. Then two young men named Ace Burke and John Rendell walked into the store. They saw the lion cub trapped in a small cage. Buying a lion cub was probably the last thing the men thought they would do. They had just graduated from college and were living and working in a furniture store. But after they got home, Ace and John kept thinking about the cub. They decided to put together all the money they had. It was equal to $6,500 today. They went back to the store and bought the little lion. They named him Christian. Christian was a 30-pound ball of fluff when he moved into the furniture store. He quickly felt at home. He hid behind chairs, then jumped out to play. He climbed on Ace's and John's laps while they talked on the phone. People came to the shop just to see the lion. By April, Christian was 130 pounds. He was strong. He was also gentle. But Ace and John knew he would grow to be a 500-pound predator with sharp teeth and claws. In the wild, lions prowl in grasslands and forests. A shop in London was no place for Christian. But where could he go? The men didn't know. They just knew they couldn't put the lion they loved back in a zoo. One day, two people came to the furniture store. They were actors who had starred in a popular movie called Born Free. The movie was the true story of a lion cub named Elsa. She was an orphan. She was saved by a couple named Joy and George. They raised Elsa for years. Then they set her free in the wild. Ace and John wondered, could they do the same thing for Christian? The actors contacted George. He was still living in Kenya. That is the country in Africa where he had found Elsa. He agreed to help set Christian free there. About 8 months after Ace and John first brought Christian home, they took him to Kenya. But setting Christian free wasn't easy. Animals raised in captivity, in zoos, cages, or homes, don't have the skills they need to stay alive in the wild. Christian had never lived among lions. He had never hunted for food. How would he survive? But George had a plan. A small group of lions lived at his camp. George hoped Christian would bond with them. He hoped Christian would form his own pride or group. The group could then go into the wild together. At first, Christian wanted to stay with Ace and John, but he soon made friends with the other lions. Ace and John knew they could leave him. The goodbye was heartbreaking for the men. As they drove away, Christian chased after their truck. This made leaving him even more difficult. The next year, the men returned to Kenya to visit Christian. He was now 300 pounds and 6 feet long. Would he even recognize them? Ace and John called out to Christian. When he heard the men's voices, he put his paws on Ace's shoulders. Then he reached over to John and pulled him in too. It was clear. This wild creature was hugging the men who had raised him. When it was time to say goodbye to Christian again, Ace and John cried. They knew they would always miss the lion. But as their plane took off, they saw Christian and his new family on top of a rocky hill. Christian was now free to prowl the wild, just as he was meant to do. And he would never see the inside of a cage again.